Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Nedling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Nedling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to become that confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, I'm pleased to bring to you Kerry Simon. And let me tell you about Kerry. He is a graduate of Texas A&M University. His entrepreneurial journey began at just 11 years old when he started his first business, Homeboy's Lawn Care. By the age of 26, he had already opened 3 retail stores specializing in vintage clothing, skateboards, and streetwear, while also launching his clothing line, and it's Proletariat. Is that how you say it?
Proletariat.
Yep. That rolls off better that way. Proletariat. But Kerry's story doesn't stop there. After hitting the road with his wife in an old Toyota RV to travel the US of A for a year, he settled in Salt Lake City and decided to try his hand at the corporate world. There, he worked his way up from social media director at a snowboard shop to becoming the CMO of 2 international retail clothing chains with over 200 locations. Never one to sit still, Kerry later launched a marketing agency and co-founded Nowhere Coffee Club. A coffee company was born from the partnership between his best friend and former customer, his Cambridge, Massachusetts store. Interesting. Today, Kerry is here to share the unique insights of entrepreneurship, marketing, and how he's navigated the twists and turns of his diverse career. We're going to talk about something you all will recognize as important to me, and that's building business with heart. Please join me in welcoming my guest, Kerry Simon.
Thank you so much.
So, are you still friends with your best friend after you had your business?
Oh yeah, we'll be friends for life. That's for sure.
That's awesome. Sometimes it's not the case, but
I know. Well, we actually laid out some rules before we even started, and we're like, if this ever happens, we need to talk. If this ever happens, we need to talk. So no, we're great.
Yes. Doing business together is like having a marriage. You got to have that.
It is. It is.
So let's talk about the 2 easy questions I always ask. And that is, first, tell everybody, what part of the country do you live in? Where do you call home right now?
So right now I live in Salt Lake City, Utah, downtown, via Boston, which was my last home, via Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas.
Yeah. Traveling the world.
Yep.
Share a bit about that journey that you had. I don't know if you have to go back to 11, but it's funny. Today, I just spent the day with a bunch of 8th graders, and I work with this one teacher who is just brilliant, and he has his 8th graders do Shark Tanks and all kinds of crazy fun things to introduce them to entrepreneurship and being smarter business, financially minded people. And so they had to do a resume, an interview to be a member of his class. And
Whoa.
it was just wonderful to do that. But the Shark Tank is one of my favorite things to do with them that they'll do in the spring. And they have to create a business at that, young age. So
That's
at
cool.
11, what gave you that? If you can remember, what was it that said, oh, I can do this?
I think there was a mixture of I wanted things and I was kind of afraid to ask my parents or not sure if they could offer it. I didn't want to ask. I'll just put it that way. I wasn't sure if they could afford the things I wanted or if I just shouldn't ask. So this business kind of fell in my lap. There was a kid in high school. He was a senior. He was going to college. And he knew that I was a hard worker because he saw me mowing my own yard every week at 11. And he just said, look, man, I'm moving. I'm not gonna be able to service these people anymore. I've got 7 lawns. Do you want the business? And as an 11-year-old,
Oh,
I'm like, yeah, of course. But I had no idea how much work it was going to be, especially because this is like before lawnmowers drove themselves. I mean, I was pushing a lawnmower. I was pushing the
yeah.
lawnmower to the people's house to then mow their yard to the gas station
Take
to
it
buy. It was
home.
like my shopping cart. So yeah, um, that's how it all began. But I think maybe it's just in certain people, but I always wanted to do my own thing. And it started,
Yeah.
as soon as then.
That's awesome. Yeah, usually that's what it is, the lemonade stand, the babysitting, whatever. It's like, I need a new pair of jeans and mom doesn't want to buy them. So let me
Totally.
just get my own money. Yeah.
That's it.
So the next thing though, you just kind of added businesses to your life as you went. But what were some of the twists and unexpected turns and maybe challenges that you faced?
Absolutely. So I think I'm one of these people who's kind of always jumping back over the line. I'll do my own business for a while, and then I'll jump into work for somebody else. And a lot of it is like security or maybe lack of education. So it's kind of like, you know, businesses go up and down, right? So yeah, I'll
Mm-hmm.
say the worst experience I had would have been back during the housing crisis. That was kind of well, actually, that was the second major event. The first event that I experienced was 9/11. My store,
Oh,
I had a clothing store, and it was about 3 months old. And I sort of saw my first major tragedy and kind of how it affected customers. So in that moment of 9/11, I remember customers were just coming in all day and they were just hanging out and they just wanted to be with other human beings watching a TV.
mm,
Like that was the whole day, and that kind of became the whole week. Um, versus when the housing crisis hit, more people got hit in the pocketbook on that one, and I actually kind of watched sales decline. Um,
yeah.
so yeah, so essentially, I think I've always kind of gone from own your own business, build as much as you can, ride the highs, weather the lows, and then you get really tired. And then for a person like me, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go jump into this corporation, and I'm just gonna get really, really, really good at something and really deep into something. But then I might get bored, so then I jump back over the line again, and I'm hustling and doing all the jobs. And I actually think in some ways it's like a nice symbiotic experience because every time I go to the other one, I'm better than if I would have just stayed on one path.
Yeah. I so agree with that. That reminds me of two times in my life. One, I used to work for UPS as a project manager, and so, desk kind of job almost all of my career. But whenever in '96 we had this little thing called a strike, and
Uh-oh.
and so the management had to go out and deliver your packages until the strike got
Whoa.
taken care of, and that physical labor was different than my desktop job type of thing, but it was really good. And after the strike was resolved and everything's wonderful again, I stayed on a special assignment to teach loading of our tractor trailers, and that was just building a wall of packages and teaching the kids how to do that and all that kind of stuff. And I was 40, and so it was so
Wow.
different,
Okay.
but it really made you appreciate both sides, the physical side of doing a job, as well as I think it made me better in project management because I understood then the different parts of what makes our customers delighted. The other
Yeah.
piece was now, as a retiree, I have my businesses and all these other things, but I'm in front of the computer again most of the day doing podcast or training and teaching. And so I got a side job to sell clothes as a cashier at a clothing store here. And I get to actually see people and talk to
Yep.
live bodies and things. And I think it makes you just sharper, especially understanding customer service. Because in this
Hmm.
world, we're kind of in a bubble And we may forget how important it is to connect with people physically, personally. So yeah,
I
I can
totally agree with
totally
that. Yeah.
appreciate that.
It can be very lonely having your own business, you know, even when
Yeah.
you have employees, you're still kind of a group of one, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely agree with that.
So at 26, you opened these retail stores, launched your clothing line, and all those things. Whenever you just not the challenges based on like the things that we just talked about, but really being the boss, and now you really have to have some employees, some processes in place. Talk about the challenges that you didn't expect that you had to quickly pivot to be able to manage.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I actually started my first shop at 23. Um, and
Wow.
all I'd ever really done before was worked. I'd worked in a cleaners and I'd worked in a hardware store. So I remember even after my very first day of open with the clothing shop, I was like, oh man, I have to like count the till. What's my process for counting a till? Oh, I guess I'll just go back to the dry cleaner process because that seemed to work for them. You know, I mean, I was literally, it was an interesting time period because where I lived, you could get a place for about 300 bucks a month, like with
Wow.
traffic, you know? So it was very successful from the beginning, which I actually attribute so much to luck. But I would say one of my funnier experiences of like, oh my gosh, I need a process is, you know, when you're dealing with college students as your employees and your customers, college students just like they got a lot going on. They got a lot of things that
Yeah.
they're thinking about that might not be counting the money properly or cleaning up the store after work, right? And I had one employee who multiple times left my front door unlocked overnight on a main street in town. And the only way I found out is my direct competitor who was two doors down from me. And I mean, we went at each other. He came in twice and he was like, he called me. He's like, dude, you have people in your shop. It's like 8 o'clock in the morning. I know you're not here. What would you like me to do? And he really kind of helped me out on that one. So we looked out for each other, even though we were like
Oh,
constantly trying to take each other down, which was probably pretty
uh,
cool. It was a pretty cool experience.
that is so true. And I'm 67, and some of the people that I'm working with in the same job position, if you will, are high school and college kids. And again, it is just to keep your eyes a little bit more open and understand the different perspective of the different generations, which,
Totally.
I think it's really important for us to be successful. We have to understand those different generations, and I know the younger ones always get a hard rap, but I really just force myself to always remember when I was 20. And I
Hmm.
don't see a lot of difference in them than when I was 20, honestly.
No, I 100% agree. And I love working around the youngest employees, right? Because there's just a
Hmm.
happiness and an energy and a joy, and we get kind of crusty and burnt out, and they just bring some fun, you know? So
Yeah,
and it's
that's
also
right.
nice to be able to pass on a little wisdom along the way and try to help them out.
So true. So you took a year-long road trip. So I'm imagining you weren't working. It wasn't teleworking, remote working, or that nomad that I've interviewed so many times. What was that like? I took a month with my family to go across country.
That's
So
cool.
tell me about what it was like to do a whole year.
Yes. So at this point, I had owned and operated four retail stores, and I was probably about 33. Just weathered the housing crisis, just laid off my unbelievable workers who didn't deserve to be laid off, just sold my store. Literally, I sold my store for the value of the items in it because no one was buying companies at the time. And
Yeah.
I knew I couldn't keep it open much longer. I was already like deep in debt trying to keep it open. I learned a lot of lessons from that experience. So I would say that I was probably as close as I've ever been to kind of being like, I'm done with all of this, like in a much more dark sense. Do you know what I mean? And my wife
Yeah.
noticed and she was like, you know, let's just take a vacation. I'm like, how? We're like in this crazy debt, you know what I mean? And she's like, we're just gonna do it. So it's funny because I'm sort of the risk taker. I'm the guy who you would think would say, hey, let's buy a van, drive around the country for a year. But in many ways, I'm not that person. And my wife, who's very, you know, she seems like the one who's got it all together, and she absolutely does. She was the one who recommended it. So I didn't even know that was an option in life. I don't know where it came from. This is way before influencers were buying vans and driving around the country. This was it was very hippie, and I'm 46, so I wasn't around for the hippie moment. It was a very hippie moment, which we took full advantage of. So I feel so thankful we had that experience, just for a like moment of life. I mean, most people don't get to unplug, and we didn't have those iPhones. I'm sure they existed, but we didn't have one. We didn't have GPS. We didn't have anything. We just had each other, and we had this van, and we had 12 months to crisscross the United States, and we didn't have enough money to like buy things. We didn't have enough money to like go on extravagant restaurants. We just existed and made food and just drove around the country and really got a good vision of like how cool the US is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was awesome.
So I wonder from that experience how that has touched or influenced the things that you've done since then.
It absolutely. So, in multiple ways, I'd say a positive negative is there are many times when I'm in a position or in a project and I'm like, dude, I lived for an entire year on like $15,000. What am I doing right now? Like, why am I putting myself through this?
Mm,
Um, at the same time, what it opened my eyes to is this was post-housing crisis. A lot of, if anyone had gotten to travel like we did, you would have seen that most of the country was going through something. There were a couple hot
yeah.
spots that like it felt like nothing had gone wrong. New York, San Francisco, Seattle, places with kind of like booming tech were still doing pretty well. But many, many small towns, you could actually literally see the places closing. I mean, it's still like that in Europe. We were in London this summer. It's still like
Mm,
that in Europe, after COVID. So yeah,
mm,
so I think what I got to see is I got to really get a taste of what was working. And there were three businesses in every town that were still open post housing crisis. And it was a coffee shop, it was a screen printing place, and a pizza shop. Those
mm.
three in 2010 were bulletproof, which I thought was pretty fascinating and kind of
Yeah.
led me to starting a coffee
What you do
company.
today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you talked about the fact that you went back into the corporate world. And so, and I know after I retired, I was called back to do a special contract. And when I left, it was time to leave. And then I came back and that reinforced that it was time to leave. So what was it like for you to go from being an entrepreneur to now maybe not having as much control over things?
Yeah. So I went into the corporate world 100,000% because I was in debt, period. That's why I decided to go get a corporate job. I was like, how do I make this money? How do I make enough money that I can get out was the goal. What was interesting though is what I wasn't aware was going to happen is I never knew that, oh, if you're in the corporate world, you get to go really, really deep into a subject matter. You get to be an expert in your job and your job title. Whereas you're a generalist if you own a small business, right? Like I'd love to maybe go deep into marketing, but I still have payroll and I still have cleaning to do and I have sourcing to do.
Mm,
So it ended up being a nice thing, which I was just kind of surprised about because I just kind of didn't really know from the small biz what my profession could be. I found out very quickly
right.
I'm very good at marketing, I'm very good at social media, interested in web design, interested in digital ad spend. They're like I kind of could put all of my skills more in a hierarchy, and then that's sort of how I went out and found my first gigs. Um, so those are the positives. I think the negatives are is if you do own your own thing, then obviously you're always the final decision maker. You're not ruling by committee. You're just like this is what we're gonna do, right or wrong. We're gonna do it.
Mm,
Um, but now that I'm back in my own thing, I actually want those advisors. I want that advisement from my close friends and the people I trust. So, yeah, what I've learned through all of it is neither one's perfect. There are a
that's
lot
true.
of pros in one
That's
side, there's a
true.
lot of cons on that one, and there's a lot of pros over here and a lot of cons over there. And it's kind of like,
Yeah.
what do you want to deal with this week, year, month, day?
Hmm.
That's kind of what it is for me.
Yeah. And I think, part of what I do is try to provide training for people on leadership and being a better communicator. And I found that still in the corporate world, a lot of training gets cut out. And and in small business, people don't have it because they are sometimes doing 50 hats and they don't have time, but they need it in both
Hmm.
instances. And it's interesting how, that's always that, I wish I could do this, but we're putting out this fire or that fire. It's
Yeah.
very interesting that way.
No, I actually think training is so important. I mean, it's funny. I've done literally every job, from the most manual labor to like sitting behind a computer screen. And I had a job one time where, which was this was a coffee shop, and the woman, was taking me through all the roles of the coffee shop, and one of my roles was mop the floor every night. And she just said, "Look, I'm going to teach you how to mop the floor." And I remember kind of laughing about it, like, okay, like I know how to mop a floor. But I didn't know how to mop the floor in their style. I didn't know how to mop it with efficiency. I didn't know where to dump this. I mean, I didn't know how to mop the floor. And it seems weird to tell at that time I was 33 years old, tell a 33-year-old person who owned 4 stores how to mop a floor. But I was really thankful for it because ultimately we just want to do a good job. So I want to do a good job mopping the
Exactly.
floor. I want to do a good job managing a human being. And I feel like companies, they approve the trainings. They put the trainings in your queue where it's like, you need to take these. But I can tell you at one of my biggest jobs I ever had, I didn't do a single training over 4 years because I was too swamped and they didn't enforce it, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like if you're gonna tell you if you really want to build a successful company, you should have trainings, but you do have to account for that time. It has to be honed out in that person's schedule for them to take those trainings,
Yeah.
or else it's not going to get done.
That was my biggest thing, it's like you shouldn't make them feel guilty for being away from their desk to do the training that will make them better at doing the job that they're doing.
Totally.
Especially, if you have somebody that's either on the track to be promoted or recently promoted to manager and they've been operational all their career and now they have to have people skills and they have to deal with people and they don't like it. They don't
Yeah.
know how. They're not equipped.
Oh, I know. And I mean, most people do get promoted because they're highly skilled at a role,
Yeah.
not because they're highly skilled at dealing with people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you go from snowboarding to coffee. Besides the fact that you like both of those things, what how did you bridge that? What lessons did you learn from one that helped you in the other?
Absolutely. So the bridge would be I always follow things I can get interested in. So that
Yeah.
snowboarding to coffee was actually snowboarding to performance parts for cars, to home furnishings and electronics, to consulting for an international company, to a large e-commerce, like a mega US e-commerce site, to the company that sold had resale shops, international resale shops, a couple hundred units, to coffee. Um,
Well,
but I can tell you, if we had an hour, I'd tell you what was so interesting about every single one of those opportunities and how my background plays into it. So that was the kind of that path. Now, did you ask me the second question was what did I?
so was the bridge though really the understanding of marketing, social media, web design, that kind of thing? Did that kind of help in all of those things to really um, maybe help them improve their bottom line?
Definitely, definitely. So yeah, so snowboarding would have been social media. However, I talked to the owner and let me do a blog. I talked to the owner and let me start working on the graphic design. I talked to the owner and let me start making
Mhm.
videos. Um, and then essentially, I'm just hungry. If I can figure something out and figure it out very quickly, then I have more hours in my day to figure out the next thing, right? So then I would
Yeah.
go to the next company. I'm like, hey, I have these 5 skills. What job title can I apply for that has these 5 skills? And then I would find that job. And essentially, that's how you go from social media director I was a creative director for a while. But the problem with the creative direction I saw is that a lot of companies don't really respect design. It's just, they're
Yeah.
not willing to pay designers the same. So I learned at that point I better get into e-commerce and SEO and like the techie side of website development. And then that's where the money came from. And then throughout all of it, I just found out I was a good manager. So they just kept putting more departments under me, which meant I had to learn the departments. But yeah, I'd say at the core, it'd be marketing, branding, and then just a general give a crap attitude. Like if I see a
Mm.
problem, if I, here's an example. I worked for Overstock.com for a while, and I heard through the grapevine that we were getting a lot of rugs returned. People are returning rugs all the time. It's a total pain. We're like losing money. And I'm like, well, do we know why? Do they tell us why? No, they don't tell us why. Well, can we ask them a question when they return? Can we just have a little box and someone will tell us? Yeah. So we instill the box. We then find out that it's all about the smell. When you open a plastic bag, the smell of the rug would come out. Well, that's for every rug you buy anywhere. And if you let that rug sit for 2 days, the smell's gone. It's just kind of like a
Yeah, that's
packing
right.
issue, right? So long story short, we just added a little bit of 2 lines of text on the receipt that was like, glad you got your rug. It's going to smell for 2 days. If it smells for longer than that, give us a call and we'll replace it. And that saved $1 million a month because Overstock did so much business. You know what I mean? And it's like,
And the UPS driver thanks you for that because
yeah,
to pick up
exactly.
all this.
Exactly. And what's funny is, there was a team of a few hundred people in customer service who saw these things happen every single day. I wasn't even in customer, I was in marketing, but I just
Yeah.
cared. So I've kind of worked my way around like that. Just if you see a problem, fix it. Don't throw anybody on their bus. Move on with it.
Yeah. So, we're talking about doing business with heart, and that was a great example of that. And you also said you were good at managing, but I think it sounds like you're good at leading, and two different things really. And that's where I think, for me, where the heart is so important. You you had these different businesses, but really people are really what makes up those businesses, and you obviously weren't by yourself for a lot of them. Um, what did you find most helpful in being able to, build your business with heart? And where do you think people kind of miss that step?
Yeah, I think I'm an empathetic person. That's just that's a trait. I'm an empathetic person.
Hmm.
I don't know if it's just something that's in me or if it's because I literally have had so many positions and I've kind of gotten to feel what that feels like. I mean, when I was a
Yeah.
valet, I was around, very wealthy people, but some of them treated you poorly because you were a valet. Or like when I was a caddy at a golf course, some people treated you nice, some people treated you very poorly. And I could just feel that through every single job. Um, and I think a lot of jobs get discounted. They're just not considered good jobs. Yet we learned
Mhm.
during this pandemic that like the guy who's willing to go stock shelves at the grocery store is one of the most important people in our society, right? Like,
Absolutely.
thank you for those people. So I think a
Hmm.
lot of it is just trying to meet people where they're at, understand their goals. There are some people whose goal is to show up for 9 hours a day or 8 hours a day and just do what they're told. That's how they treat work. And those people are great. We need those people. We have a lot of those people. There's other people who want to figure out how to do something more. They want to climb the ladder. Um, there's a few people who don't want to be there anymore, but they don't want to go find a new job. And it's kind of knowing like how to motivate people and how to praise
Yeah.
people and how to thank people and really how to help people. Um, and luckily, in my roles in management, I had done most of the jobs. So I felt
Nice.
like between the empathy and between the experience, I was able to say like, oh, well, this person needs this, and this person needs this other totally different thing, but luckily I can handle both sides of it. And then just, I'm just not one of those people who's ever going to put business over human beings. And I don't
Mm.
say that in a way of like, I've never been unsuccessful with it. I mean, we went through the whole pandemic and I treated everybody like a good human, and Overstock was still up $1 billion a year and we were marketing, you know what I mean? So it's like,
Hmm.
there is
Hmm.
a way to do it. I don't know if it's just a lot of people have not experienced that kind of leadership. And I know that the people that have worked for me have always said that they haven't experienced my type of leadership, and that they really like it. So maybe there's a little fear when other people in leadership see your way and they think, oh, this guy chats up his employees too much, or oh, they seem to like have fun over there. So you have to always back it up with the numbers. So I'm
Hmm.
very, very good at presenting how well we're doing for the company so that we don't sort of have things discounted like our laughing or going to lunch together or stuff like that.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, the better relationship you have with your employees and with your coworkers, the better the whole thing's going to run.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just at those times when things get challenging, things get tough, you have a goal that seems somewhat impossible, that you want to be able to know that you can say to your team, "Hey, this is what we have." And because of that relationship you built with them, they will go the extra mile. They will, give 110% because they understand that they're part of the solution and part of the mission and all those good things.
Totally true. I had a really wonderful moment because after working in a place for a few years, we had a coworker who had a major loss in their family,
Mm.
and I actually was able to get on the phone with all of that coworkers, other coworkers, and say, look, this person's going to need some time. And I just want all of us to take a percentage of their workload, and I'll take whatever's left, and like, let's just give them time. So like, company never knew. We all got together. We broke up this person's job. We just did it, and we did it. No one ever complained. And then the second that person was ready to come back, they'd been paid the whole time, and it was just great, right? And it was just sort of this whole moment where I'm like, wow, this is what we should be always doing for each other. We're always,
Yeah.
all of us are going to have a problem at some point, and if we can just band together and get through it, and learn along the way, it just seemed like the right thing to do.
Yeah, so true. All right, so time has flown by. I have one last
Oh,
question.
sorry.
Looking back on your career, what's one mistake you made that taught you the most valuable lesson, and how would you advise other employee or entrepreneurs to avoid the same pitfalls, or would you advise them? Do we need to have that lesson?
Yes. I think location, which is like such an old adage, is so true. I think it's not just a physical place, it's also a space and time. So
Mm,
my first store was so successful. The physical location was pretty good, but it was just a moment where I had zero competition and what I was selling just took off like wildfire, right? I mean, if Zuckerberg started Facebook in 1989, it would not be as popular as it was when he started it. It was just the
hmm
location of time and the location of physical space. Now, another part of the physical space thing is when I came to Salt Lake City, I worked for a guy who sold high performance car parts, and he just had this wonderful product that everybody online liked them, but he just couldn't really make it work. And it's because it snowed 5 months of the year here. So for 5 months, we were kind of radio silent because you can't really take a Corvette down the highway in the snow. It's not the right thing. So that same person is now selling camper vans in the exact same state. It's the exact same sort of model. It's just a different vehicle. And now he's got location dialed, because if you're ever going to want to see a picture of a camper van in Utah, it's going to be in Utah. It's not going to be, there's other places, Seattle or whatever, outside in the woods. But I think there's one thing, and there's, you can never put too much time into finding the right spot. My shop in Boston, I moved it 1.5 blocks, and my revenue tripled.
Wow.
It's just, but the thing is I can't quite tell you yet what the perfect formula is to figure it out. We all take these guesses and we think we have it, and I would have never known 1.5 blocks would be the difference between a successful company and a non-successful one.
Yeah. All right. So if you guys out there, you all out there think that, oh my, I'd like to have some more further conversations with Kerry, and or learn more about his coffee, which we did have a whole, you know, topic on the coffee itself, but you're going to want to have his contact information. You know that I share that with you on a slide, but if you're just listening, you can get the information on my YouTube channel, Vicky Netling. Please subscribe. So for those that are just listening, the website is nowherecoffeeclub.com. Again, that's nowherecoffeeclub.com. On LinkedIn, it's his name, Kerry Simon. For Instagram and Reddit, it's Nowhere Coffee Club. And I'm going to turn it over to Kerry. He's going to tell you what you might find if you go visit that website, as well as the resources, links, things like that, and how often and what he puts out there on the social media. So it's all yours.
Absolutely, yeah. So we post to social media probably 3 to 4 times a week. You'll see everything from just beautifully shot videos of us making coffee to cool events or people who come and talk to us about coffee and also their life. On our website, Nowhere Coffee Club, we have created a 32-ounce stainless steel French press. The goal is for you to buy this once and never buy another French press in your life. There's just so much waste. So we're trying to build things to last. And this one's so strong, we parked a Jeep on top of it, 6,000-pound vehicle. Nothing happened. Like it still works great.
Oh,
So I think
wow.
we've made the mark, which is cool. And then our coffee, we roast freshly every single day. We ship it nationwide. If you've never had fresh roasted coffee, I mean, roasted within 4 days, 5 days of trying it, It's actually a new beverage to you. So highly recommend it. And then, yes, I run a marketing agency. We work with everybody from the smallest businesses. I mean, I have an auto mechanic shop right now. We're doing great with him. I've worked with universities. I work with corporations on special projects. So if you ever have a question, you want to chat, I don't mind giving out free advice. That's what we're here for.
Well, it's so great to chat with you. And we do have to have another, just a coffee chat to really share a little bit about, how you came about with the coffee and all those other good things. So we'll have to have a follow-on podcast. But
Oh, I love
thank you
that.
for
Thank
being
you.
a great guest.
Thank you, Vicky. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it.
As always, I remind everyone that life is a journey and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicky Nettling signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicky Nettling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.